Okay, welcome everyone to today's event. I'm Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com, and we're here for a session all about address data quality for Dynamics 365 and Dynamics AX. Our presenters today are Amir Kashniati and Alex Whitney of AX Mentor. They are here for what should be an interactive session and an interesting one. As we get started, please know that you can enter your questions at any point through today's event. Look for the Q&A block just to the right of the main presentation area. And we'll also be having a poll question soon, so keep an eye open for that just to get some more input from you in the audience. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand things off to Amir to get things started.
Thank you, Jason, and welcome everybody. As Jason mentioned, if you guys do have any questions during the course of this webinar, feel free to type them in, and Alex and I will be standing by to help facilitate those questions as we go through. So with that, we'll get going. Give you guys a quick intro into who AX Mentor is. We are a Dynamics 365 AX and CRM partner. We were founded in 2006. Ever since been certified. We are members of the TAP program. Members of our team are AXUG, CRMUG board members, and also MVPs such as Alex. We are headquartered in San Diego, California. We have offices that span all the way up north through Temecula, Irvine, all the way up to Bellevue, Washington, and also have global presence in Copenhagen, Denmark, and London, UK. We also have vertical expertise tied around manufacturing distribution, professional services, specifically financial services, public sector, and then also retail and e-commerce. And our services really range from everything from help desk, recovery services, support, road mapping, solution discoveries, development, and then full-on implementations and trainings. And a few add-on products to Dynamics 365 and AX. We have an AX Admin app, a public sector module, and we have a bad data validation verification solution, Quacks, which we will be deep diving today. Quick intro. Again, my name is Amir Kashniati. I'm the marketing and sales lead over at AX Mentor, joined here with Alex Whitney, who's the product manager and the technical architect, as well as the MVP. Before we get started, we wanted to dive into why quality data is more vital than ever. We have a couple stat points that we'd like to go over today. First of which is a study that was put out at the end of last year, and it basically said that 3.1 trillion has been the number estimated by IBM as the estimate of cost of poor quality data. We're looking to see how much that number may have potentially increased for 2017, but a huge quantitative number that they've broken down really around bad data. In addition to that, we have a couple other benchmarks. Another one is 50% of time that knowledge workers waste hunting for data, finding and correcting errors. So we'll be going into basically how to mitigate that in today's webcast. And we'll be identifying a couple different buckets that we would be placing some of these bad data issues into. And some of the questions that we've seen as we've looked at market research is really, what is the cost of bad customer vendor data for your organization? Do you experience customer satisfaction issues? And does this hurt your brand's reputation overall? Do you get online bad reviews due to lost shipments or issues similar to that? The cost of bad address data, what does it really mean to your organization? We've basically siloed this into a couple different categories, and we're interested to get your feedback to see what you may be relating to more than others. So we have lost shipments, we have insurance claims, we have late payments and penalties, missed deliveries, and reputation and reliability loss. And what we have here, we have one poll question to help kind of guide today's conversation, and maybe we can focus in on some more of these problematic areas based on some of your issues that you face. So, Jason, do you mind launching that poll question right now?
Okay, that should be coming up for everybody.
Great. So as you see on the side menu, what are some of the bad address data issues you struggle with? We tried to simplify it for you, so verifying legacy addresses, correcting sales order information, the commercial versus residential breakdowns, and then also return shipments. We'll give a couple more seconds for that. Are they flowing in, Jason?
Yeah, I see some answers coming in. Yeah, let's say 5 more seconds to get your answers completed. I see a few in progress. Yeah, so I'll close that out now. And it'll be a bit of a delay before I can show it, but I can tell you 75% of people voted for verifying legacy addresses and also correcting sales order information. The next most popular was verifying commercial versus residential. No votes for return shipments, though.
Okay. So people are having success on that front. Good to hear. What we're going to do, and the results are coming in, so I'm sure everybody can see them on their good split between existing data and correcting sales orders. And today's bulk of the presentation will be around those two topics. So very good to hear that that is a pain point from the audience. Just going a little bit deeper on what the impacts of addressing mistakes may be. So we touched on insurance claims and what that really means to misdelivered products as products and shipping costs increasingly have rate increases. And then in addition to that is lost shipments. So if you do lose a shipment, you're going to actually lose the product with it, which is a bigger cost. So we'll be going over how to mitigate that. International shipping, it can cause holdups in customs, which obviously is a bigger issue. And then just really jumping down to the last point is all of these really relate to brand perception, and upset customers can choose to go in another direction, and also in today's online world can write really bad reviews, which can ultimately hurt your brand more than anything. A little bit of an example here that is an extreme, but it's actually a true story. There was an organization that was looking to demolish a house over in UK a couple years back, and as a result of bad address data, actually went in and demolished the wrong house on the street due to the wrong number being inputted in. So extreme example, but it shows that it is always very important to have correct bad address data. What we've done is we put this infographic together to basically put a workflow around what it means to pack and ship an order, the costs associated to it, and if something goes incorrect and that shipment has to come back and be repackaged and sent out, what the cost may be. So we took a couple different averages to basically silo this number out, and we came down ultimately to about $70 per package from the time of packing that package to sending it, handling it, having employee time to repackage it, and then basically reroute it. And what we've done is, with Experian's help, we have put together our own yearly cost of what it may be for bad data to your organization. And if you visit axmentor.com/calculate, you'll be able to go in there in a very interactive method, and within less than 2 minutes, type in your order revenue per year, number of orders. We have a default 1% of lost shipments. You can adjust that number and a couple different fields and basically get what your yearly cost of bad data may be. So we do invite you guys out to go check that link out and try the calculator, and hopefully not be too surprised about what your yearly cost may be. So jumping right into it, we got this infographic that's going to talk to what really Quacks is. And so if you have a car, we'll just pretend for this case in point that it's bad data. Quacks is the data, and it's flowing through, let's say, your ERP. It hits a checkpoint where it needs to be validated. And our product is that checkpoint. It's going to basically go in and act as a data check within your AX environment. If everything checks off as far as zip code, city, state, street name, we don't have any misspellings, or it doesn't have any duplicates relating to another point in time, Quacks will basically hit off the checklist on all those verification points and then allow the data to flow through successfully. If it does find an error, basically it will reroute you back over to the data checkpoint to correct it, come back in for a final QA, and then pass it through. And then Alex today will be able to actually put that to work within the product. So what we have is a scenario-based demo. So whether you're in different silos of the organization or different tiers of it, you'll be able to relate to the product based on that. So we have day-to-day use for sales and service departments. We have a manager role perspective, and we have a third-party data connections role perspective. So we'll be able to showcase that in all facets today. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Alex to conduct today's demo.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Whitney here at Experian, and I'll be showing a demo for you. All right, and hopefully everyone can see this screen. I know the view is a little small, so we're going to try this magnifier and see if this will help. And let's start. So here we are in standard AX 2012. This is also available for 365. The demo we're just showing is focused on 2012 right now, because people are more familiar with that. I'm going to go ahead and look into kind of some of the new features. I will go into this first example address. And this is just a customer right here. And what we've added, and here's your standard customer. You can now see there's this column, these indicators, where green is good, yellow is unknown, red is bad, and then this green/yellow is overridden. This gives you a visual indicator right away of the address and the status. These are also enums in the background so that you could write custom code around them if you wanted to pretty easily. So that's a new feature. Here are some extra shortcut buttons, verify or override. So you can go ahead and just immediately verify, or you could override them if you want. The reason you may want to override is if you had some address that the system couldn't validate but you know is correct. There are cases where, say in Alaska, where they make their own roads and the addresses just don't exist in any system. And there's also been cases where customers have the wrong address, but they insist on the wrong address being printed. So those are some of the rare cases where you may want to do that. And I'll go here to this example customer. I'll go ahead and enter some addresses so you can see how it works. So the first address, so we're going to go ahead and so this all on the left is your standard functionality, and over here on the right is this new functionality. This is an engine. This is the engine, the interactive engine, to help you input addresses as you go. I want to go ahead and show you just a basic validation where if we were to go and put, you have your standard address, you may have your existing data, or you could consider it legacy data because it hasn't been validated yet. But you can go ahead and just hit verify. And at this one, it's so close. So you can see it'll give you indicators for what it changed, postcode corrected. So it changed from 85250 and added the +4. The zip +4 is crucial for pretty much any tax solution in order to do accurate tax reporting. So that's a big one. And then also adjusted the street. So it went from 8556 Kime to East and Drive. We can go ahead and use the retrieved one. His additional fields right here, it'll say it's good there, and this has been identified as a residential address. Why that may or may not be important to your organization is if you can identify if an address is residential or commercial, a lot of times you can save on your shipping costs. If you are, some organizations don't know this, but if you're to ship a package to a residence, generally it costs a little more than if you ship it to a business. And if you are unable to identify whether your package is going to a residence or a business, a lot of times you have to default to the safest bet, otherwise you face penalties. So you could save a lot on shipping just by identifying up front whether the address is residential or commercial. I think it's something on the order of $1 a package. So I'll go ahead and hit OK, submit this address. You can see it comes here and it's green or verified. We'll go ahead and add another one. Let's do this. And so I want to demonstrate the different engines. That was the verification engine. Right now I want to show the type down engine. So the type down engine using the same address is for, and the reason you'd use the type down entry is more for new address entry, while the verification might be for existing addresses, or if you had some sort of other third-party system dumping addresses in. We'll go ahead and enter that same address, 8525. It's a prompts for the zip code. Oops, missed one. And so you can see as you type, it automatically populates data around here below, so it makes it simpler to quickly navigate. And then the street is East Con Drive. You don't need to put the east or the drive. And then you can see as you start typing, it'll give you these ranges. And so you can make sure that you're in the right range, and then when you find the correct address, you're okay, it populates back. And so where this type down is, if the type down and verification is important, is if you're doing, say, a address entry over the phone, you may have a customer on the phone say, what's your postal code? And it's 87508. And they'll say, well, the street would be 3 Verano, that's Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so this is a typical entry where you say 3 Verano, Santa Fe. Let's go ahead and hit verify. Well, if you do this on the phone, you'll see that there's 3 Verano Court, drive, lane, loop, place, and way, and they all have different +4. And you can also see I misspelled Santa Fe, which I didn't realize as I was typing it, but it'll correct that for you and text on the fly. So we can go ahead here, it populates all the back data, and also gives you that +4. So having this verification engine and entry makes it really beneficial to quickly correcting addresses. I want to show another example address too. So let's say I'm going to enter our office, 92101. Actually, I'm going to use the type down engine for this as I do it. So I'll do 92101, and we're on B Street, and you can see it prompts all the different streets. We happen to be the first one. And then the building is 401, and then it'll even prompt you for your suite number. And so you can see as you type them in, it'll get even more granular. So we're suite 1450, and that's our office address. So it can handle all sorts of other complex things as well, specifically like APO, FPO, rural routes, general delivery, urbanization addresses for Puerto Rico, and many other odd scenarios that a lot of people don't realize exist. And then it's also international. So let's go, I'll do an international address. We'll switch to Canada. And then the certain international countries also have what's called a single line engine. And this is for places like Canada or the UK where they're smaller countries and their postcodes are much more granular. An example would be we're going to go to the British Museum, and WC1B3DG. So you can see this is, oops, I'm going to go to Great Britain. So we're going to go to the British Museum, and you can see that postal codes for the United Kingdom are different than the U.S. So here's an example of one where it's 4 letters, space, and then 3. You know, sometimes it's 6 only. Sometimes there's a space after the first 2, after the first 4. And so knowing that, especially if you're trying to expand internationally, that's a lot of new information that you may not be familiar with how to address envelopes, how to post. But if we just type in the postcode only, it'll navigate specifically right down to, it'll add the space, British Museum, Great Russell Street in London, and get right to that. And I'll just go ahead and show you, here's the British Museum's webpage, and here's their postal address. And so it's very quick for address entry, whether you use that or you can use the type down engine and say WC1B3DG, and then it'll even get right down to it the same way. And so those are some of the international features. And so I'm going to switch back. And so this is on the customer form. It's on every form where an address is present. Generally, most people have most of their issues with their customer addresses and maybe contacts. So I'm just focusing around customers. But if you were to go to your vendors, it exists there as well. And I'm going to switch over to our Quacks dashboard. So to talk about how the The setup works up, it's pretty simple. You are provided the configuration token. You choose an endpoint, which specifies, which is just wherever your AOS is closest to on the globe. So if you're in Europe, you would choose, a European one. If you're Asia Pacific, you would choose that. USA, you would choose USA. We've got different intensity settings. You can choose close, exact, extensive. Close is the default setting. Exact would be a little bit more strict, and extensive is a little slower, but it gives you the most results. There's different options. Some organizations don't want to use it +4, so we have that parameter that you can set if you want. If you want your secondary address info on line 2, you can set that. The reason is the U.S. Postal Service, they actually want it on line 1, while UPS specifies that they prefer it on line 2. It's just a different standard. So if you do a lot of your shipping with UPS, both work, but some prefer it. And then we have these settings down at the bottom. These are the unattended settings. So there's a processing engine for various other processes. So if you have, say, for example, e-commerce integration, or if you have, if you want to do bulk cleaning of your data, it doesn't make sense to sit and wait on it or to interactively do all of them. So you can submit them in batch, and the engine can process them. But because the engine's processing them in unattended modes, you may have certain settings that you may or may not want it to do. Say, for example, if the postcode's corrected, that's where if you enter a 5-digit and it turns it into the 9-digit, you would want that to happen. But if a primary number changed, where maybe you put 10B and it changes, it's just number 10, you may say you don't want that to happen and that you'd rather interaction after the fact. So after you enter your configuration settings, you have this license data mapping screen, and forgive me if you can't see everything. This screen it may look overwhelming, but it's pretty simple. All you do is you click this button and it downloads your license. And then you have license amounts, whether you're volume or seat-based, and then you can specify which engines you do or don't want enabled. When they get downloaded, they automatically check which ones should be appropriate. But if for some reason you don't want users using maybe the verification or type down, you can disable that if you wanted to. And that's pretty much it for this screen. And this is how you can enable or disable certain countries if for some reason you didn't want them to. And so that's pretty basic. We've got these periodic batches. The address queue processor, this is just a batch that runs, and it takes a queue of addresses that are pending, and it works its way through them. And so this just runs in the background. That's all you have to do. And then here's a cleanup batch where you can say how many days of history you want to keep and how many days of batch history you want. So those are pretty simple. And then we're going to go to our address cockpit. This would be considered our data manager role, where what it allows you to do is take your existing data and work through it in a reasonable manner. So you can go and filter. So we have your party accounts and your entity accounts. So your entity accounts would be like your warehouse, your site, that type of thing. And then your party accounts where you can filter if you want by your customers. You can look at vendors. And so mine, this is Contoso demo data, so I have my vendors hidden, I think. And then another feature that we have are these visibility settings. So you may not want to work on your vendors at all, which is what I did in this case. So you can pretty much hide these records, and all they do is move them off the screen. It doesn't delete them, it just hides them. And so if we toggle the visibility, you can see here's all the records that I've already hidden. So here's some prospects. I've gone ahead and hidden them. You can show it, and I can toggle it back, and I'll say we've unhidden it. So now if I go back to the visible mode and we switch to prospects, I'll see here's this one prospect. But I don't care about my prospects. This is old Contoso demo data, so I can just go ahead and say hide this, and it takes it off the screen. And so that gives you kind of an organization one. So we're going to look at some of these examples. So what it shows you, and I might have to undo the magnifying glass just so it doesn't keep jumping around. This example address here are those addresses from the other customer. And we can go here, and so when you want to examine this, you can hit view record, and whether it's a customer, prospect, vendor, or whatever, it'll jump to the correct table. And you can see this example record was just those examples I showed with the indicators. Well, the good and the overridden addresses, you can see are not in the screen because it only shows you your unknown and your bad addresses, because for a processing cockpit, you really are only going to be working through the addresses that need to be looked at. So for this example right here, I would look at this and I would say, okay, this is an example customer. I don't care about it. I'm going to go ahead and hide it. In general, you probably won't have a lot of example customers. And so I've created all these test addresses here. And what you can do is you can select them and then just say queue for processing. There's the different priorities. The reason you'd want different priorities would be if you're going to say install Quacks and you're going through and working through your old existing data, processing it. But you're also taking in live e-commerce orders and all sorts of other things. Well, those e-commerce orders you would want to be processed and validated immediately, while this old data that you're working through you really don't care about when it gets done, so it can be behind it in terms of priority. This queue batch is arbitrary, so you can just say, Alex test 1. All this does is just give you an indicator so you can see what batch they're in. You can leave it blank if you want. I'll go ahead and queue these right here. And then as they're queued, they highlight yellow so that you can see that they're queued. You can see there's 10 pending, and then as it switches to in progress, and then they queue out. Another feature is you can use this company selection. So if we choose this, right now we're doing USMF, we could take in some of our other companies and say, so retail, and let's pull that out. I don't know if I have, okay, so I don't have any Contosa retail data, but put that back in here. And so this will let you filter by company if you want to work through different ones or not. And then it operates on the same batch schedule, so it takes about a minute for it to get picked up. I do have a few test accounts that I want to show for examples. So I'm going to filter to those and show those. So for these customers, I'll just go ahead and queue these and say tests. So then these are queued as well. And then another feature is I can show you. So if you didn't have the batch running, you can enable this button here. And then I'll show you the batch 2s right here. So you can see it's executing right now. So it's already working through these, and that looks like it actually finished already. And so it operates on the 1 minute cycle. So we go ahead and refresh. And so you can see for these, they finished already. And what you might want to look at some of these is okay, so you're going through all of your data, and I'm going to show this for all these addresses here too. We needed demo addresses that were valid, so they're actually all addresses of McDonald's, scraped just from McDonald's list. So when we look at these addresses, they're just a bunch of McDonald's. And let's go ahead and examine a couple of these. So you might say, why is this one bad? This came from McDonald's. So what the typical process would be is you would take all of your data, or you'd validate all of it in bulk, most of it would validate, and then you'd go through and resolve some of the bad data. Now, for this one, let's go ahead and edit it, and let's take a look. So if you look at the zip code, it's 6082. Well, that's not correct for the U.S. They're 5 digits, and this is something that was not intended. It was actually, I used the CSV to import it, and the CSV chopped off the first 0. So what we can do on something like this is we could try to you could use the type down to kind of resolve it that way, because you might say, okay, the zip code's wrong, even though you may know, okay, it needs the zip code. You could say, you could delete the zip code. So you could simply delete the zip code and try verifying it this way. And you can see just from deleting the zip code, it was able to determine, okay, 34 in field, and we can use that retrieved address. Now we're in a good state. This is a good correct address. And if I go back to this form, I can just hit refresh. You can see that account just dropped off of here because there's no bad addresses. Let's look at this 31 right here. Okay, so this one, we edit this address. You can see it looks like it's another CSV problem. If we just might be able to just verify it on its own. So just by verifying it, was able to ignore the bad zip and just correct that and use that. So you can see how quickly you can process through this queue. This one I actually find is more interesting. And keep in mind, this is data from McDonald's. So this isn't stuff that I've set up. And that's interesting because you'll find in the real world that companies have their own addresses listed wrong often. And so we look at this one, and if we verify it, it gives a lot of kind of suggestions. They don't really seem quite right. So we're going to go ahead and just try to get to the type down, and we're wondering where it is. So the postcode, we might say, okay, is 010 to 27. So we can assume that that 0 is chopped off. So what's our street name? Well, it's Hampton Street. So there's only Hampton Tur. So, and what's great about this is it's good for address discovery. So there's no Northampton Street. So let's just try typing north. And then you can see as we type Northampton Street, it's actually Northampton. And this is just McDonald's has it listed wrong on their site. So it's not Northampton, it's Northampton. And then we get into our building number 121. And so before I do this, I want to go back to where we entered the postcode. And if we tried that Hampton, so this Hampton Tur, we may think, let's just give this a shot. Well, you can see it gives you ranges of available numbers. Well, 121 is outside those ranges. So even trying to figure this address out, you might realize, okay, that doesn't look right. Let's go back. And we're able to figure this one out on our own. There are cases where if it's, if the customer's address is wrong, you're going to have to contact the customer and say, what's your address? And then they'll say, oh, that's wrong. We had it wrong on our website. But here you can see I've entered it, corrected it, hit OK, and close back, just refresh, and now it's gone. So one of the things with addresses is it is an iterative process because people make mistakes. You can validate the bulk of your addresses and correctly fix most of them, but then you're going to have cases where, and these are true addresses that I've seen in customers where it'll say, I'll have the postcode, and it'll say, please leave on Tara's desk. And this will be an address. So if we try to verify this, there's no matches because this is nothing. There is no address there, obviously. So that's kind of, you're going to have those cases where you're going to have to call the customer and say, hey, we never got an address for you. And this processing engine really makes that easy to work through it. And then I wanted to show a couple other, one last sort of example. And to go along with that address discovery, especially when you're on the phone, so one address that I had to work with was, it said their postcode was 02767, and then they said they were at 3 Ketchikan Circle. And you can imagine trying to type that to say Q. Well, as soon as they type Q, you can see it immediately puts that there. That can really aid in speed of entry, but then also user mistakes. You hear something on the phone, and you may not type it right. And what a lot of it does, especially it gives that user that good feeling that, okay, it's verified, and we'll be able to send it out correctly. And so with that, you can also set up you can set up various processes around these addresses where you can say, if I have a sales order, I want the sales order to only be able to post a confirmation or post a packing slip if the address is verified. So these indicators you can tie to that very easily. And so that all depends on your process. Some people want it at the confirmation, others want it at the packing slip, because by the time you print a packing slip, you're ready to print a shipping label, and you want your shipping label to be correct. That's where it's important. And then the way this Cockpit works is it uses this processing engine in the background. This processing engine can also easily be used for your third-party integrations or your own internal customizations. What you can do is you can call just one method in code and just queue it into a queue, and it'll go into the processing engine. So there aren't any complex things to learn if you want to integrate this to your system in some sort of other custom capacity. And then this is also available in Dynamics 365, and I'm showing the 2012 version. But the way this is designed from a technical perspective is it's designed with the extensibility model in mind. So it is as light as possible. So when you decide to install this in your system, you don't have to do a huge merge. It doesn't take, thousands, hundreds of hours or anything with consultants. It's a pretty straightforward process. And then also if you decide ever to remove it, it's a pretty straightforward removal process. It doesn't have lots of configuration tables. It's really only got 2 tables of configuration data. So one problem with other ISV solutions is that when you install it, if you don't want to use it, it's pretty much stuck in your system and it's difficult to remove. That's not the case with this. And also other ISV solutions take a lot of effort to install and configure. This is very straightforward installation and very straightforward configuration. And it's nice because you can just quickly get up and going with it. And then it's lightweight. And then for Dynamics 365, it's fully extensible with no overlayering. If any of you are looking at 365 or already on 365. And so it follows all of Microsoft best practices in that way, in that regard. And with that, I think I can pass it back over to Amir. Or before I switch off the demo, is now a good time for some, if there are any specific questions about the demo? Do you see anything in the chat?
So Alex, I'll check here for questions.
We can always take questions at the end. I didn't know if there's anything specific.
Demo specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything specific. We have more general questions right now.
Okay. So then I will go back to this.
Great. So just we're going to do a quick recap. Thank you, Alex, for that. That was a great deep dive. Before we get into the recap, we want to give you guys one example of a case study we have with New Sunshine, also under the parent company Australian Gold. You may know them. They're a manufacturer and distributor and supplier of scanning equipment and technology. They had issues around existing data, and we were able to go in there, understand their high frequency of sales orders, and through their e-commerce site, assist them basically with the data validation as the sales orders were coming in, and basically correct them as they flow through into AX. And then from the existing data side, we were able to run those batch fixes that Alex went through to correct all their existing data that was sitting in the system. So they were a good case study for us and a good success story for us around Quacks. So just a quick recap on all the points that Alex went through. We won't spend too much time here, but Quacks was really designed to integrate with any type of address that flows into AX, and it's built in a way that's accessible so users across the company can benefit through it with their address validation. Works natively with AX functionality. As you saw, it seems as if it's another module just out of the box within AX. It increases the work productivity and it helps you avoid any need to log into multiple programs to verify. It has a bulk cleanse data validation feature in it. It helps with the huge time and money savings. And whether you're going through just a new implementation, an upgrade, or just a simple data cleanse, we'll be able to assist you with that. And we partnered in with Experian with their data quality services to ensure that the information going into the system is accurate, both from the format and the content perspective. And for companies that aren't sure where they are shipping and it's unfamiliar territory, we are able to assist with that. Just kind of going into the cost and risk reduction. Quacks allows you to verify existing data, so you can systematically get rid of all the issues, help with your brand perception, and then lastly, it helps you to get your addresses, whether it's commercial or residential based, to the right point in time and place. Just some more points. If you're really looking to get the job done right the first time, Quacks is really the solution to assist with that. We built this based on direct customer feedback, and the build was based on too much time being spent manually entering addresses, manually going in and correcting them. And the hope with the partnership with Experian was to bring the best of both worlds, bring a product that's built for AX, it sits natively in there, and then from Experian's point of view, we are getting the best-in-class data quality in place. And then, as Alex mentioned earlier, we have a few validation scenarios, commercial and residential, which will help you with your cost savings based on where it's shipped. We have military address supported, and we also have PO boxes as well. And this is both domestic and international. As mentioned before, we're internationally supported, over 200 countries. Remove the risk of human errors. It can determine full zips, source plus 4 addresses, backfills relevant tables, and you can really feel confident about the data in the system with this partnership. We also saw the list of registrants prior to the webinar starting, so we wanted to put a slide up really for our partners. And we have a good partner program built around Quacks, basically 3 tiers, silver, gold, and platinum. Starting on the silver side, if you do have any referrals for any customers or prospects that you may see have a fit with Quacks, you can tap them over and we can brand you with our silver badge. Moving over to the gold side, this is a pre-sales partner. And then the platinum side is a pre-sales and services partner. Our rule of thumb really is 1 or 2 sales to your customer base with Quacks can really get you into the gold and platinum level. It's an intuitive product and it's very easy to grasp. So if you do want to work your way to a higher margin, definitely pass them over, sit through on a pre-sale cycle. Usually our demos last anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, and we can get you up and certified into our partner program. With that, I'm going to put a concluding slide with our contact information for more info. And if you would like a personalized demo, we also have that link, axmentor.com/calculate, if you do want to calculate your yearly cost of bad address data. And I can't see the question pane, but I'll pass it over to you, Jason, to facilitate any questions that may be in the queue.
Okay, great. Thanks, Amir. So, yeah, a couple people are asking about pricing for Quacks.
Okay.
How it's priced, yeah.
Yeah, so we price based on the number of active users. It's basically tiered, so 0 to 50, 51 to 100, 101 to 150, and so on. We do have enterprise size packages for those that are above 1,000 users. And it's simply broken down by a software cost and an enhancement very similar to what Microsoft has. And in addition to that, we have some minimal services. And basically, the data quality then comes through the Experian side. I'd be happy to break that down for anyone on a personal basis.
And what versions is Quacks compatible with?
I can answer that one. So right now, it's compatible with Dynamics 365 platform 8, 9, and 10, but there should be no reason for us to make it work with any other platform versions before. And so pretty much all 365 versions out now. And then for the 2012 versions, it's primarily 2012 R3, almost pretty much every cumulative update. And then because it's designed extensible model, it's very low effort for us to get it on any R2 or RTM versions, any other versions should they be needed. And then if there's a customer demand, we had a 2009 one in the works, but there's not a ton of demand right now for 2009, but it's something that if there's demand there, we can also support it that way.
All right, let me make a final call for questions here. I see one more, and so let's get to that. It's asking, why did you choose Experian as a data partner?
So I can answer that. One of the big differentiators across in the address space, which a lot of people might not realize, is they're not all the same. And Experian's data collection and the quality of data is some of the best out there, but also the way they deliver the data, their engine matching, and their different fuzzy abilities is much better than a lot of other address solutions. What you can see between the different address solutions that the ones that exist out there are that some of them only return is it valid or not. And through the demo, you should have been able to see that it's much more than that. You can do the guided entry. You can whether it can figure stuff out from the data that you've entered or if you're close. And then it's also about the implementation of it. With their service, we're able to very effectively implement it in AX. Some of the other solutions, Some of the other software ones, you could get something, but it'd almost feel like a hobbled version of what we have here. And so that's sort of why we lean with Experian. And in that, and they're just one of the biggest players in the space.
All right, well, that appears to finish up the Q&A. I want to remind folks we do have a quick poll that'll pop up after you depart today. We'd really appreciate any additional feedback you can provide there for us, as well as I'm sure for the AX Mentor team. It's always valuable to hear your views on things. Well, Alex, Amir, thank you so much for presenting today, for taking the time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Okay.
And thanks to everyone in the audience, too, for your time and attention. With that, we will conclude today's event. Have a great day, everybody.